Hey everybody, this is Andy, aka Love Retro BTW, across Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I do a podcast every Saturday called Cafe BTW, a morning gaming podcast, a retrospective look at the wonderful world of retro gaming, from interviews to guests. Join us every Saturday, like a Saturday morning cartoon, starting at 8 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, if you're on Twitter, please join the brand new retro gaming community, a place to share, connect, and show your love for the retro gaming community. All the links are down below. And remember, enjoy the Gamers Week podcast.
Coming up on Gamers Week podcast. But Baldur's Gate 3 looks freaking awesome.
What about you, Donnie? Are you in for the werebear sex scene?
Okay, I didn't necessarily see a werebear sex scene, but I am into that. I mean,
check his history.
No, please don't. No.
Yeah, we're going to need to verify your receipts on this one.
Right.
So have you heard the most recent news about our good friend Billy Mitchell?
No.
Billy is now flagging people on YouTube who are making content that's disparaging to him.
Okay.
Which is that everybody?
No, apparently there are some Billy Mitchell stands out there.
Of course there are.
There's also been some litigation happening between him and Twin Galaxies.
Hasn't that been ongoing a while?
It has, right? And they recently came across something. So one of the things is Billy suing Twin Galaxies for taking down his world record that he accomplished at like some realtors convention.
I remember this.
That's where I get all my world records.
Of course, right? And so they're deposing him and asking him all these questions. And one of the line of questioning had a lot to do with just like, would you play on a cabinet that was modified in any way? And this is from Carl Jobst's video, but he was talking about, all right, well, if the buttons were purple, would you play it? Like, no, they need to be original. They need to be OEM. Well, if the joystick, what color should it be? It should always be black. I would never play on another cabinet doesn't have a black joystick. Well, Billy not aware that they have a picture of him from that event and the cabinet that he played on with a red 8-directional joystick. Not a 4-directional joystick like the standard Donkey Kong one, but an 8-directional one that was bright red and long. You giggity kids.
Yep. I said nothing.
You giggled. I heard it. Well, are you guys ready?
Yep.
I am ready.
Let's do this. All right, everybody. Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, the worst, and the weirdest headlines of the past week of the video game industry. Today is episode 84, and it is Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. My name is Ryan, and I will be your host for this evening. And last night, around this time, my dog wished on his birthday treat that I could not tell a lie for 24 hours. I have about 2 minutes left, so let's hope that doesn't get me into trouble. Well, as I said, I'm here to host, but I do have two of the most deplorable, sick-minded freaks this side of the nut house with me, who I hate more than Slippy Toad and the N64. First up is a woman who is proof that the impossible is possible by subscribing to one TV subscription service at a time. Blue Williams. Blue, how you doing tonight?
I wish I could say I was surprised by all that, but that kind of tracks. So, yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, next up is a man who has contemplated on more than one occasion while shopping in the pet food area what flavor of puppy chow he would enjoy the best with a nice 12-ounce bottle of Budweiser. Donnie G. Donnie, how you doing tonight?
It's Gravy Train. It's always been Gravy Train, and it forever will be Gravy Train. There's no question, because the water in the food makes it like gravy.
Is there anything else that you put on it? Is it like chives, sour cream, or you just like it the way it is?
I just imagined getting a big, nope, let's move on, please. That's disgusting.
Well, while Donnie recovers, why don't we take a look at the reviews, reactions, and requests for today. So first up is from Darth Rex 8. You won me over. I didn't win, but I found a nice podcast. Thank you, Darth.
Thank you, Darth.
Welcome.
Dragon Nilla 300 said, great episode. You guys, I really liked it. Congrats to the winner.
Thank you.
That warms my heart.
And lastly, the first Josh says, I'm ready to order my ultra mesh shorts.
You will never be freer than a pair of shorts with the nice mesh lining inside. I swear by it.
Donnie will die on that hill.
All day, every day, twice on Saturday? Or whatever. And now, it's time for the...
It's blood. California, stay away from me. Stay away from me now. Don't come in here.
Oh, I know what this is.
Whatever you hear, stay away. John Doe has the upper hand. Mills!
Here he comes.
What?
I wish I could have lived like you, Donnie G.
What are you talking about?
Do you hear me, Donnie G? I'm trying to tell you how much I admire your podcast. Gamers Week.
What'd you fucking say?
It's disturbing how someone on Twitter, X, can create a new account and vote in your poll and tip the scales to their answer. I visited Writer's View's home this morning.
Oh, jeez.
I tried to put podcast host. I tried to taste the life of a simple man. It didn't work out. So, I took a souvenir. Her pretty head.
No, I'm in the box.
Put your gun
I
down.
saw you with the box. What was in the box?
Because I envy your normal life.
Put your gun down, baby.
It seems that envy is my sin.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
Put your gun.
She begged for her life, Donnie G.
Shut up!
She begged for her life
Shut up.
and the unfinished Hollow Knight save file. He didn't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't know how I feel about not having a head anymore.
Well, after I did that, I thought long and hard, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have had it been her head. Maybe it should have been like the pole or her.
I wouldn't change a thing, sir. Granted, my head is securely on my body, but
I'll tell you something, though. I'm going to have weird dreams tonight.
I'm surprised I was able to get the Yoshi sounds in there perfectly timed.
Oh, it's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. Every Monday on Twitter, we post our VIP, our very important poll. If you'd like to participate, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. Now, the question this week was, what character has the most evil laugh in video games? Coming in third was Omega Flowy from Undertale at 11.2%. In second place was GLaDOS from the Portal fame at 22.3%. And leading the pack this week, an overwhelming amount of you said Kefka from Final Fantasy III at 53.2%.
He's just going to let it go.
yep.
Ryan, you have matured. You are a gentleman and a scholar.
I wouldn't go that far.
Now, 13.3% of you said other, so let's take a look at some of those comments from the poll. At SMB Flurry says, the Splatterhouse 2010 Terror Mask. Every voiceover that Jim Cummings did as the mask was amazing. At Blaze Knight 0923 says Herman Carter, aka the Doctor from Dead by Daylight. This evil psychopath even laughs when you stun him with a pallet. At 90s Nostalgia says, how is Sweet Tooth not listed? At Frank Grande 3 says, Baron Samedi from GoldenEye 64. That laugh stayed with me for years, and I would hear it whenever the lights went out. And at Sid, Lexia says, the effing dog from Duck Hunt. So how did you vote in the poll, Ryan?
So I'm surprised that Omega Flowey didn't get more votes. That laugh is extremely sinister. More so to me than Kefka. Kefka, yeah, he's got a laugh. I get that. And it's still like chiptune-y though. So it doesn't like resonate with me. I'm not like creeped out by it. I wanted to be creeped out. Like GLaDOS as well creeps me out. It's an AI. We should all be scared of ChatGPT. So naturally that makes sense. And the one other one that I was thinking about but decided not to go with, of course, is Soda Pop Pazinski. Because I struggled with Soda Pop for so long as a kid. And every time you would lose, he would have that laugh that just ate at your soul the entire time. But I think that if you're going to go for like the most evil sounding laugh, I'd probably go with the Joker, which is probably a cop out a little bit. But the Joker from Arkham. He is just perfectly done. If I remember right, isn't it Mark Hamill who does the voice for that?
Yeah.
Mark Hamill is the perfect Joker. And to me, that's the quintessential, like, psychotic, evil laugh. There's sinister, there's vicious. His is psychotic, and it resonates and it lives on. So I'm going to go with Joker on this one.
That is an amazing answer, and I don't find that that's a cheating answer at all. It's a well-established series, and Joker is very instrumental in that, and that's perfect.
Thank you, sir. Look at this. I think last week you made fun of me. All of you guys made fun of me for my answer. This week I'm getting applause. I like living on the edge.
Would it make you feel better if I made fun of you a bit? If I said all evil clowns are a cop-out answer?
Do it.
Yes, perfect. Great. There we are. We're back to reality.
I'm here for you, bud.
Appreciate it.
Blue, how did you pick?
I went with one of the most long-standing villains in video game history, Bowser. But specifically, Bowser's laugh from Mario 64. Because it's even worse when you've already failed and he's just laughing at you. Similar to the vibe from the Duck Hunt dog, but more evil.
It just keeps going, and like you continue to die and it continues to happen. The next thing you know, your N64 is crushed in pieces below your boot heel.
I don't think I would have crushed it beneath my boot heel. I think I probably would have ripped it out from the plug in the wall and like chucked it across the room.
I'm loving this conversation, by the way.
I'm glad. So how did you vote, Donnie?
A lot of the 8-bit stuff, just like, I guess it was the chiptune-y stuff that you can't really remember. However, saying that, the one I picked was Bald Bull from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
There it is.
I didn't remember Soda Popinski having a laugh. I'll have to go back and check that again. But Bald Bull, that was just that.
It's actually the same one as Bald Bull.
Is it?
Pazinski,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I only have to do one soundbite.
Less work for Blue. Woo! And then just the way he stood with his hands on his hips and his head bobbing up and down, it pissed me off as a kid. And it kind of still pisses me off now. However, I don't really get beat by Bald Bull, so I don't get to hear it all that often.
You know, it's like Nintendo loved that sound because they also used it in Zelda. I think it's either Zelda 1 or Zelda 2. When you died. Yeah. That was the laugh of Ganon. So
it was.
I guess like with 8-bit chips, I mean, how many laughing sounds can you really do?
All right. So why don't we go ahead and shout out our patrons for the week?
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Jim and Colleen, Games with Coffee, Hybrid Divide, Matto1606, You Fall Before Me, Davey PGH, the Redox PDX family, including Shannon and Luke, Scalazeal, Zach Huge Thanks, Number One Blue Sick Voice Fan, Anita Hanjab, Evo Lust, Princess Kitty Mew Mew, Rai Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamatroid, Michael LeKite, Emo Wesk, Bill Tucker, The Real Retro Game Brews, Fruitcake's Number One Stan, Ducks with Thick Thighs, Hugh Jass, It's Taco Tuesday Somewhere, You Can't Drink All Day If You Don't Start in the Morning, Wizard of Zardoz, Bops and Dugnut, Retroblast Pat, Great Simon 81, B&T Zelda Guy, Geek With That, Johnny Boombots, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Ramboski, Terry Kinnair, and Ducks in Disguise. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing, like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more.
Whoever's doing these, it seriously gives me the Simpsons vibe with Moe and Bart. I need a hand job. I need a hand job. I need a hand job. In here.
Now I know what the ending sound is going to be.
Great. All right, so why don't we take a look at our headlines for the week? Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic, family-friendly retro gaming podcast. In each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Currently, they're playing through Phantasy Star and Congo Bongo. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes.
Can you say Congo Bongo 5 times fast?
Congo Bongo. Nope. 2. I mean, it's 2. Really 1.5.
Yeah.
So Conga Bongo is a ripoff of Donkey Kong that is intended to be a faux 3D Donkey Kong, and it is so bad.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, me neither.
It was in the arcades. I think they also made ports for the Intellivision and for the ColecoVision as well. But it's the example of we've got Donkey Kong at home kind of thing.
With the bag cereal and everything.
You got it. Bag cereal and McDonald's with why are there peppers on this?
First up from VGC, Nintendo targets 2024 with next-gen console. Development kits for Nintendo's next console are now with key partner studios, with launch planned for next year, sources have told VGC. According to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans, the company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024 to ensure that it has ample stock available on day one and to avoid the kind of shortages seen with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. Although specific details on the consoles are being kept closely guarded, those VGC spoke to indicated that the next-gen console would be able to be used in portable mode, similar to the Nintendo Switch. 2 sources VGC spoke to suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED in order to bring down costs, especially considering the increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. The current Switch comes with just 32 gigabytes of internal memory, while many current-gen PlayStation and Xbox games are over 100 gigabytes. Like its predecessor, the new Nintendo console will also accept physical games via a cartridge slot, the sources said. Other details, such as backwards compatibility support for Switch games, physical and digital, remains unclear. Nintendo has said it wants to convert as many of Switch's 100 million plus user base as possible to its next system, although some third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles. Tokyo-based industry consultant Dr. Serkan Toto told VGC that a 2024 console launch would make sense for Nintendo, since it's projected to see double-digit declines in Switch hardware and software sales this year after it cleared 7 years in the market. I would generally say that looking at Nintendo's financials, it seems clear that it's time for a new piece of hardware in 2024, he said. Hardware is already projected to fall 16.5% year-on-year in the current fiscal, while the minus for software is expected to hit 15.9%. The only way to stop these losses from totally ballooning next fiscal is a new device, and the second half of 2024 sounds like a realistic release window to me. And the thought of Nintendo having backwards compatibility makes me laugh.
Man, I hope it's true, though. That would be an unusually consumer-facing policy for them to allow all the families who have invested in Switch to continue to reap the benefit of their investment while still buying the new system.
But they've almost never done that. I think the Wii U was the only one that you could play Wii games on, correct?
GameCube games on.
Yeah, the Wii could play GameCube
game. Like how messed up is that? What is it? What the next Switch is going to be able to play Nintendo games? It's going to have a slot for the cartridges to pop in.
I just think they're going to pull the same thing they did with the Wii U and basically just take every game that's good and bring it to the next gen console so that it kills the Switch library completely.
No, the Switch has an enormous library. The Wii U library was easy to kill.
Okay, I'm just maybe a little butthurt about how they did the Wii U, okay?
The Wii U was the one in the Nintendo console herd that needed to be picked off by predators.
It's the weak gazelle in the group.
Yeah.
But do you think that's really the case when third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles? Do you think that's really the case? I don't think so personally. I think maybe it stops people from buying games they wouldn't otherwise be interested in just to have something to play. But I think for those titles that are big titles or interesting titles or exciting titles, people are going to buy those no matter what.
I agree. The fact that you're still keeping that library available, it's not going to make the consumer not go after newer titles as long as the newer titles are worthy of playing.
Right.
If you want to continue to just dump out crap, and it gets reviewed horribly, people they don't want to play it. If you did a poor job, that's not our fault.
Right. Or you want to port your existing Switch game forward and expect we're going to pay full price for it again? No.
Right.
Well, and that makes me surprised that they came out with Tears of the Kingdom this year, if they knew that they had planned on releasing something a year later.
Well, Tears of the Kingdom was already delayed a year.
That's true.
Which may have factored into it. But they've got to have some sort of killer game on the horizon to launch with it.
Mario Kart 9?
Don't give me hope. When is Mario Wonder coming out?
Oh,
great question.
Mario Wonder. Looks like October 20th, 2023.
Okay, so we're getting several big Nintendo titles this year, and then supposedly a whole new console next year. I'm also interested in this discussion of the LCD screen versus the OLED screen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because Nintendo's strategy with the Switch has been, let's keep the price point down so that people can afford it, and we'll sell much more software that way if we just get our console in the hands of as many people as possible. But considering that they've got to really pump up the internal memory, I wonder if they're going to be able to stick with that strategy.
I mean, you would imagine that as time goes on, that stuff gets cheaper, right? That's why PlayStation and Xbox are able to expand their library. I mean, I remember when the 360 came out and it had like 4 gigs of memory. And you're like, sweet, this is enough.
Well, it's like the new Xbox One S, the black one. It's going to be $350 with a terabyte of memory, but no disk drive.
Right.
So if this is going to have maybe not a full terabyte, but a disk drive or a cartridge slot plus more memory.
And more processing power, you would imagine.
You'd hope.
They could potentially make a Switch that's 4K, right? I mean, that's going to be adding to your price, though. But Nintendo has expressed interest in Call of Duty, so I'm curious if that it's going to be
like money like everybody else.
Of course, everybody likes money.
They can charge $60 for a cloud version, like they did with a lot of the other ports to the Switch, are just cloud versions. Kingdom Hearts being one that comes immediately to mind. So am I going to pay $60 to own something that I can only play on the cloud?
Well, then they better make sure that connectivity to play that from a streaming service is top tier, because if that's going to hinder or harm the experience whatsoever, then I'm out. I don't want to do that.
Big news. Nintendo upgrades from Windows 98
to Windows Vista.
Yep.
All right, next up from gamesindustry.biz, Microsoft now selling controller replacement parts for Xbox. Microsoft is now selling replacement parts for Xbox controllers following its pledge to expand right-to-repair options for consumers. The program is currently live for Xbox users in North America, as confirmed by Xbox Insider Program Lead Brad Rossetti on social media. Consumers can now fix individual problems with Standard and Elite Series 2 wireless controllers, including replaceable analog sticks, buttons, triggers, and a printed circuit board assembly. Replacement parts can be purchased on Microsoft's Xbox Repair and Replacements Parts website, where users can download a service guide intended for technically inclined individuals with the knowledge, experience, and tools required to repair Microsoft devices. Tutorial videos can also be found on the Xbox Support YouTube channel. First-party repair kits for Xbox controllers can also be found on the how-to website iFixit, which has the parts listed with a lifetime guarantee, while Microsoft's parts only have a warranty for 1 year, as spotted by The Verge. iFixit also sells the tools required to carry out repairs. Microsoft expanded its right-to-repair options in 2021 following a shareholder resolution filed by As You Know It. The shareholder encouraged Microsoft to expand consumer options for repairs, which it pledged to do by the end of 2022.
And all over North America, house fire incidences went up because people tried to use a soldering iron for the first time.
Yep. I could do this myself. Boom. So first off, I'm going to say that I read this article and it made me think that Microsoft was now selling controller replacement parts for the original Xbox. And I was like, wow.
Everybody's still holding on to their Duke. You can now fix it.
Right. A bit too late, but okay.
The Duke.
But I like this move. It's you're not restricting people from being able to fix their own things anymore if they so choose to. And people have been doing this for quite some time, but it's like, oh, send us your stuff. If it breaks, send us your stuff and we'll fix it. And it'll cost you an arm and a leg and you'll get some sort of little, warranty for it until it breaks again and then yada, yada, yada. Give me the chance to fix things myself, which I kind of have done before, but I can also see now so many different spare parts because people are trying to put things back together and you never are able to put everything back 100%. So There's always going to be a screw or a little nut or a bolt or a little connector thing. And you're like, where the hell does this go? Just fling it over your shoulder.
It's like every time I put together furniture for IKEA.
He's always got an extra little nut.
I'm all for it. I think this is fantastic. We for too long have been given technology that's extremely complex and that's difficult to fix. I mean, if you want to fix your iPhone, good luck. You can't even get to the battery of that thing.
Yeah, right.
Well, they don't want you to do that. They want you to buy a new iPhone every year.
Right. So I'm glad that Microsoft is being pro-consumer on this one.
I 100% agree because it seems like we live in an era where things are just engineered to fail. You think about like the washers and the dryers and the refrigerators and stuff that we grew up with. It was all practically indestructible. It was built like a tank. It lasted for decades. And then you think about the stuff you got now, and as soon as one little thing goes wrong and then the whole thing shuts down and you have to buy a new one. It's not sustainable from an economic perspective. It's not sustainable in an environmental perspective. And so to see something like this is really great. And I wish that somebody like Nintendo would do the same thing because the controller drift has been such a burden on the Switch experience that if instead of having option A, send your controller to Nintendo and they'll get to it at some point, and in the meantime, no games for you, or B, you just buy another one, which they're like $60-$70, something like that.
And if you got a Switch Lite where it had Joy-Con drift, the whole thing is bricked.
Yeah. I would like this to become a really commonplace thing.
My old house, whenever we bought it in 2008, it had the original water heater from like 1987 or something like that. And that thing didn't go out until 2018?
Wow.
Or 2019. 2019 is when it finally crapped out. And they don't make things like that anymore. Like you said, Blue, your typical water heater is like, what, 7 to 10 years old now? That's the lifespan of it. It's why? things used to last an incredibly long time. Now they're like, well, we can get more money if we just make it cheap and it'll break in 5. They'll come back. They'll have to. What are they going to do? Go without a water heater?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they're charging you any less because it's cheap.
Right. No. Yeah, it's cheaper materials and all that stuff. But guess what? You're going to pay $5,000 more for it.
Right, because it's a smart water heater.
Yeah.
Right. It talks to you. I am a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Yes, you are, GLaDOS. Yes, you are. Hey, Laser Lips, your mother was a water heater.
Johnny 5 reference. Well done, sir. All right, next up from Metro, Final Fantasy 6. Director admits Square Enix staff want Remake 2. There hasn't even been a formal announcement of the long-rumored Final Fantasy IX remake yet, but some fans are already desperate to see a certain other entry in the Square Enix roleplay series be remade, Final Fantasy VI. Recently, Square Enix put out the second half of a roundtable interview with Kitase, Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi, and pixel artist Kizoku Shibuya that was done to celebrate Final Fantasy's 35th anniversary. Naturally, the possibility of a Final Fantasy VI remake is brought up to Kitase. In fact, he is specifically asked when, not if, there will be a remake. Kitase only remarks that he can't think about a Final Fantasy VI remake at the moment since the Final Fantasy VII remake project isn't even complete yet. That consists of 3 separate games, and a second entry, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, is scheduled for early 2024, but when the third and final installment will arrive is anyone's guess. Sakaguchi adds that a full remake of Final Fantasy VI would be difficult since its original art style, which made use of pixel sprites, allowed the developers to create a massive world, one that would require a lot to recreate with 3D graphics. However, Kitase reveals that there are many die-hard Final Fantasy VI fans within Square Enix who regularly bombard him with questions about a Final Fantasy VI remake. Sakaguchi himself seems to be eager about the idea too, jokingly asking Kitase, when is it? And if he can get the Final Fantasy VII remake project done any quicker. When Kitase insists a Final Fantasy VI remake is not all that easy, he never completely writes the idea off. For his closing statement, he simply says, "Working on the games was great fun, and I would just like to push Final Fantasy VI again."
Are you sure? Are you sure you want that?
It's a okay. Yes and no. We saw how Final Fantasy VII Remake came out. If it is action-based combat, I will be pissed. But outside of that, 6 has probably the best story, in my opinion, out of all the Final Fantasy games that have ever come out. And when I say came out, I mean all the ones I've played, which is 9 and before. But that being said, one of the interesting things that he points out is that because it was pixel-based, you had to use your imagination a little bit, so they were able to create kind of a really expansive world. And I think he's spot on with that description. But the transition from pixel 2D sprites to 3D realized graphics and games is a tough one, but also what I think that does for players is it really steps up the experience. I would love to see what that world looks like in 3D.
I'm in agreement with that. I would love to see that world reimagined with new technology, but knowing that the Final Fantasy VII remake is still not done. What happens when they say, okay, we'll redo Final Fantasy VI, and it's going to take us quite some time because now we have to do these 3D environments and all this stuff and make this game look amazing for you, the consumer. And it comes out and it's like, okay, well, we got to do it in 5 parts.
That was my immediate thought, because when you think about 6 versus 7, 6 has so many more characters.
Yep.
And the story is so much more involved. There's so much more player choice in what happens. I don't know. I guess I'll say that I'm currently 30 hours or so into Final Fantasy 16.
30.
And while I am mostly enjoying it, I'm just not sure Square Enix has it anymore.
Oh.
16, to me, it has a really good story at the beginning. And definitely the point of the game where I'm at now is we're hitting the filler. And it's much less interesting now. And I'm kind of wondering where the actual story went to and why I've got to be chasing all this side stuff that doesn't matter. But as far as the gameplay is really shallow. It's a really linear experience. There's not a ton of variety as far as like weapons or armor or upgrading or crafting. There's almost nothing. It's all very bare bones. And it's just not the kind of depth that I have come to expect from Final Fantasy anymore. Even 15, for all its faults story-wise, the gameplay had more depth than 16 does. So to think about this Square Enix today trying to tackle something like Final Fantasy VI, I don't see it going well.
And the problem you run into with 6 as well is there's a 2-world system, right? There's the before and after. Try not to
yes.
try not to spoil anything, but there's a before and after. So you would have to make the world twice, essentially.
I mean, you could say, sure, they could remake it, but then they don't have to do it like full AAA 3D graphics. You know, give it a different art style, give it cell shading or something. But I guess if you're not going to take the world that everybody loves so much and actually try to truly bring it to life, if you're going to do it in an art style that still requires them to use their imagination, then why bother?
You know, they could save money, though, on not having voice actors.
I'll do Kefka. Ryan can do Kefka. Ryan does a great Kefka.
Perfect. Don't change a thing.
That sounds like my dog when he used to sleep.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about our top 3 new releases for the week.
F1 Manager 2023. PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. F1 Manager 2023 challenges you to manage the F1 team of your choice on your terms. Start your career as team principal at one of the 10 F1 teams and manage every aspect from the factory to the garage to the starting grid. Experience broadcast quality presentation as you take your team through practice, qualifying, and a thrilling race day for each race of the season and beyond. Detailed management systems give you control over your drivers, staff, and car. Your decisions determine how your season unfolds, as well as determining what kind of snacks are in the vending machine.
For Blue's team, it would be all Takis.
I mean, I do like Takis, but
Gotta have variety.
you gotta have variety, and there need to be like some Sour Patch Kids in there. Something.
Takis and Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah.
Never together, though.
Why not? I'd try it.
What?
Venba, PS5, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Venba is a short narrative cooking game about an Indian mom who immigrates to Canada with her family in the 1980s. Players will cook various dishes and restore lost recipes while holding branching conversations in the story about family, love, loss, and more. Whether you're new or a regular eater of South Indian cuisine, there's something delectable to discover in this short foodie puzzle game. Baldur's Gate 3, only on PC. From the creators of Divinity, Original Sin 2, comes a next-generation RPG set in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. Gather your party and return to the Forgotten Realms in a tale of fellowship and betrayal, sacrifice and survival, and the lure of absolute power. Choose from 12 classes and 11 races from the D&D Player's Handbook and create your own identity or play as an origin hero with a handcrafted background. Or tangle with your inner corruption as the Dark Urge, a fully customizable origin hero with its own unique mechanics and story. Whoever you choose to be, adventure, loot, battle, and romance your way across the Forgotten Realms and beyond. Take the adventure online as a party of up to 4. Based on these choices this week, Blue, what are you choosing?
Oh, F1 Manager 2023, totally. I'm gonna rock those vending machines.
You get to pick 1 ply or 2 ply in the bathroom and all that stuff.
Right. No, really. I'm sure that there are people out there who are just freaking excited for F1 Manager 2023, and they've had it pre-ordered for months, and I hope they have the best week of their lives this week when it comes out. For me, Baldur's Gate 3 is the one that obviously jumps out at me the most as a RPG. It's the type of game that I love to play, and we're not even mentioning the werebear sex scene in this description, but it does sound like the kind of game where the only limit is your imagination. So I'm sure that would be fun, but actually the one that sounds the most fun is Venba, because cooking games are a guilty pleasure of mine. There's Cook Serve Delicious, there's Overcooked, there's Cake Mania and Diner Dash, and those types of games are actually pretty darn fun when you want to just chill out and play something bright and colorful. And plus, this says it's a puzzle game, so I always like those. That's probably the one that I will actually end up picking up.
Nice. Ryan, what about you? What's your choice for this week?
So admittedly, usually what I do is I look into trailers and stuff of all the games that we have for the week. I skipped F1 Manager this week because as soon as I saw it, I was like, nope. I do love the concept of Venba for a few different reasons. So for one, cooking game, sure, a lot of fun. But I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is that, you know, in the era that we play in, a lot of the narrative stories that are presented to us are either Japanese or Western. Right. And to have a game that's focused around folks from India emigrating to Canada and that like immigrant experience and all these things, I think is actually really, really cool that it's being released on so many different consoles as well. So it's not like just an indie release that's going out there that is only available through Steam. So that says to me that we're starting to expand out into more people's stories, and more people can relate with this kind of thing as well. But also I think what it does is it educates people. So I don't know if it's something for me necessarily, but it sounds like it's short, so I probably would be willing to give it a try. But Baldur's Gate 3 looks freaking awesome, and I've been looking to potentially just get into D&D, so this might be a great motivator for me to get into the actual game itself, so the tabletop RPG. So I will definitely at least be purchasing and giving it a try and see how it goes. So,
alrighty.
What about you, Donnie? Are you in for the werebear sex scene?
Okay, I didn't necessarily see a werebear sex scene, but I am into that. I mean,
check his history.
No, please don't. No.
Yeah, we're going to need to verify your receipts on this one.
Right. I mean, the tagline says, whoever you choose to be, adventure, loot, battle, and romance. And I hear that as your way across the Forgotten Realms and beyond. And with the werebear sex scene, I think that's a good tagline. F1 Manager, no. Anything with the word manager in there, come on. I've never played a cooking game, but I like puzzle games. So this one could be a possibility. And like you said, Ryan, it's nice that they're actually doing things to include other people's cultures and not just make it a standard cookie cutter thing every time you make one of these games.
Right.
So that's definitely, that's got to sit well with a lot of people who like to see, you know, they're finally seeing their culture being portrayed in a video game. And it's something that makes them feel like home. Again, not into cooking games, but I think this one might be, because of, like you said, it's short. It might be something I can pick up and play for a little bit. Baldur's Gate 3, I haven't been into RPGs in quite some time, but just like you, I've wanted to get back into playing D&D. So this might be, depending on the gameplay and depending on how it's done, this might be my choice for the week.
And did I hear right that you and I are going to be starting a D&D group for nerds?
That's an oxymoron.
Who else
isn't
would
it?
you start it for?
All the cool kids are now doing it. You know, we
Yeah,
want to be
yeah,
exclusive.
Only nerds can play D&D. No cool people.
So no sexy rogues, only a bunch of guys pushing their glasses up their noses and going, actually.
Oh, no. You still have to have sexy rogues.
That is part of the nerd culture, yes.
Yeah.
Women that you'll never be able to attain yourself. All right, so let's go to the moment you've all been waiting for, our main topic for the week.
Is that what they've been waiting for?
You know it, baby.
All right. From Engadget, indie games have entered the era of bespoke publishing. For anyone with an eye on video game news, it's been hard to ignore the recent rise of names like Annapurna Interactive, Devolver Digital, Private Division, Humble, Epic Games, and Netflix tied to independent projects. The distribution process for indie developers has shifted over the past few years from a self-publishing first model to one that prioritizes deal-making and acquisitions. For the moment, this shift is powering a small but highly visible boom in the world of indie games. Everything favors a publisher relationship, seemingly, because self-publishing has become this extraordinarily difficult thing, said Ben Ruiz, creative director at DinoGod. It's possible, but without help, I just don't know how anyone's doing it. I got a lot of friends in the same boat. Annapurna Interactive is one of the most prominent publishers of indie games today, with titles like Stray, Outer Wilds, Neon White, Donut County, and What Remains of Edith Finch on its books. Annapurna is handling the marketing for Ruiz's upcoming game, Bounty Star, and is also financially supporting Ruiz's studio, DinoGod. When Ruiz pitched the game, he was clear that he'd need a team of 5 or 6 people to bring his vision to life, and Annapurna gave him the funding to hire up. It's not just Annapurna making these types of deals with indies nowadays. Devolver Digital is the granddaddy of indie publishers, and since 2009, it's released hits including Hotline Miami, The Talos Principle, Gree, Fall Guys, Inscription, Weird West, and Cult of the Lamb, all in collaboration with small development teams. There's also Humble, Private Division, Raw Fury, Epic Games, Finji, Gearbox, EA, and Netflix, all of which have stepped up their indie publishing efforts in recent years.
Meanwhile, Microsoft's strategy is to simply acquire the studio it likes, and today it has 23 developers under the Xbox Studios banner. Sony is taking a similar approach, though it owns fewer studios than Microsoft. Microsoft and Sony are also signing hundreds of one-off deals with indies as they attempt to fill their streaming libraries, Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus Premium. And then there's Netflix. The streaming company officially entered the game distribution business in 2021 and is on track to have 100 titles in its library by the end of 2023, all freely available to anyone with a Netflix subscription. It's already bought a number of high-profile titles to mobile devices, including Kentucky Route Zero, Into the Breach, Spiritfarer, Lucky Luna, Oxenfree 2, and it's purchased a few studios outright, notably Alpha Bear developers Spry Fox and Oxenfree House Night School Studio. This is the new standard for indie developers. Identify the publisher that best matches your game's tone, pitch it, and pray. Of course, there are still developers self-publishing their projects. Phasmophobia, Celeste, and Among Us are standout examples, but there's a murkier path to success with this model, one based on timing, trends, and a hefty amount of luck. There are more than 90,000 games on Steam today. Xbox Game Pass and PS Plus Premium libraries each have more than 400 titles and counting. In this marketplace, it's hard to stand out without a little help. It's taken 10 years to get here, but it's now a solid, quantifiable fact. There are a lot of money in indie games, so much money that outside companies are popping up and trying to get a piece of the pie. And for now, it's created a shiny bubble of pretty PR packages and bespoke showcases dedicated to small teams and their games.
However, it's difficult to ignore the potential for exploitation down the line, especially with Netflix in the mix. Amid the ongoing writers and actors strike, the company is facing accusations that it instituted wildly unfair compensation deals for creatives, paying out one-time, minimal wages even as projects became massive hits on the streaming service. Annapurna, for its part, was accused of mishandling claims of abuse at 3 prominent studios on its publishing roster, Mountains, Funomina, and Fulbright, in a March 2022 documentary by People Make Games. Meanwhile, the current consolidation craze is shrinking the video game industry overall, even as the market caps of the biggest companies continue to rise. But for the moment, bespoke publishing is the name of the indie game. This system has already distributed innovative and important games to huge audiences, and it's offered stability to a lot of independent artists. For now, it's a functional system, even if it ultimately leaves publishers rather than independent developers with most of the power. I hope Annapurna's success means more Annapurnas in the future, Ruiz said. It doesn't feel like they're just trying to grab a thing that will make money or collaborate with people that are just going to make the money. They clearly have a brand and an aesthetic directive. If I can keep making games for them for a long time, I will.
You know, they say that history is cyclical, right? Sometimes.
Right.
And if memory serves me right, in the mid-'80s, this was kind of the standard. You would go to a publisher, say, I've got this game, this concept. They would publish a game for you for a major console or PC. And then what ended up happening is you got into the 90s, those publishing houses swallowed up a bunch of indie folks, brought them on their payroll, and the Capcoms, the Konamis of the world were the ones who were mainly publishing games. And then, you would have certain studios come up as well. And then as we got into like the 2010s, it was almost solely AAA games, but there were indie studios like out in the wild that every once in a while they would come up with a fantastic game like Shovel Knight or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that would get brought on to consoles. But now we're back to the 1980s. And I'm okay with that. I think that there was this idea recently that, especially with Xbox and PlayStation buying up all these studios, was this desire to consolidate everything. But I think what we've seen from a result of that is that there's now a huge void in the releases for these particular consoles. So this makes a whole lot of sense. If you can leverage game developers like this who are going to make really popular titles that have been vetted maybe a little bit by these publishers, then all of a sudden those companies like Microsoft, PlayStation, and Nintendo can fill their libraries with much more accessible games. The only thing that stinks is it sounds like the folks who are making these games are not being compensated for it if it's successful.
But that's business. That's kind of always been the way of business. You say, okay, like we're going to take a chance and we're going to give you a little bit of money for your idea now. And it's up to you to really accept the terms of this contract or not. And most people end up sacrificing a lot on the return because they want to see it get done. And they say, okay, maybe because it's a big hit, maybe that will kind of propel me. This will be a stepping stone. And yeah, sometimes that does work out. Sometimes they're able to reap the rewards later on and sacrifice a little bit of that initial investment. But is that something that's going to continue to happen? I would say yes.
Well, and I think you kind of, to put that into a sports analogy, it's like you get your rookie contract, 5 years.
Yes.
Got to prove yourself, and then you get paid, which makes sense. But I guess I would hope that they would at least be willing to offer up something of, if you reach this specific milestone, we're going to pay you more.
I would agree with that 100%.
If you're a rookie and you win the Super Bowl, they're going to pay you.
Yeah. You're going to get that money.
And or you get to negotiate a much better contract for your next game.
Exactly.
It's really great that we are seeming to be living right now in this kind of bloom of really, really fantastic indie games. And I love that there are this many publishers taking these games seriously. Indie games are the domain of love still for games, whereas it's easy to be really jaded about the big AAA studios because they have so many problems and their games are often made now to be safe bets versus stuff that's willing to be new and innovative and take a risk and come out with something that we never expected. You have to turn to indie games for that kind of stuff. So of course I'm concerned that as indie games prove to be better and better deals for publishers, because why wouldn't they be? You can make them in a fraction of the time for a fraction of the cost. Mm-hmm. And so if they're a hit, then you really, really rake in the profits. So I hope that doesn't ruin what makes indie games great, just like it's kind of ruined what used to make AAA games great.
Right. But to that point, I think what has driven so many studios to bet on safe is, I think to Blue's point, is that now that could trickle down to these indie developers and publishers saying, I'm only willing to publish your game if it's safe. And so we're not going to get games like Call to the Lamb. Because, I mean, honestly, that game was crazy if you think about it.
I know.
You start your own cult for crying out loud.
And that's one thing that I guess is another advantage of doing this is that the different publishers, indie publishers, can make names for themselves in a sense. Because like Devolver Digital, everybody knows that if you're going to get a Devolver Digital game, it's going to be a little bit bonkers.
Right.
And that's what I love about them.
They're helping fuel variety with these kind of one-off games or off-kiltered games that nobody expects. It's those out there kind of far-fetched ideas that people have. It's like, hey, let's turn this into a video game. It just might work. And nobody knows what the safe bet is. Nobody knows if this is going to be a hit or not. You take that chance, and if it's a really good idea, you start developing it. You have the focus groups that say, okay, I think this is fun, yada, yada, yada. If it's not, then you scrap it.
Well, I think what happens too, though, is that all these publishers are getting pitched games, and what could occur as a result of that is they're going to say, well, we'll pay you more for the safe ones. If you're going to make a games as service game, then yeah, we're going to pay you more up front. But yeah, we'll throw you a few bucks for your wonky lamb who decides to is critical.
I suppose, but as a counter argument, I guess I would say that indie games still live and die on word of mouth.
True.
So if you're going to do a game as a service, it's really, really hard to get off the ground anymore. I mean, when's the last time that we heard of a game as a service that actually was successful? It might be Genshin Impact, might be the last one that I heard of. But for the most part, they seem to start with these really grand ambitions of we're going to be the next Fortnite, we're going to be the next Rocket League, and then they never are. Mm-hmm. So it might be better ultimately and more realistic for indie games to kind of stay being indie games.
And to your point, it's the passion projects that make the good stuff. The only problem is passion projects very rarely become economic powerhouses as well.
Yeah, rarely. I mean, I don't have any idea how much money something like Vampire Survivors has pulled in. But considering that it was $5 to begin with on Steam, and now it's being ported freaking everywhere, and it's getting an anime adaptation on Netflix.
Right.
Really? Yeah. So
wow.
it's not going to be the kind of it made $8 quazillion like a Mario Kart 8 did. But for indie games, it's certainly a runaway success.
Of course. But I think that if we're looking towards the future, at least there is hope that we'll continue to see games like this come out and that they'll get the, I guess, eyes on it that they deserve.
Agreed.
Well, and I think that actually maybe the future of indie games actually depends a lot on what happens with the writers and actors strikes.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because if the writers and actors strikes can force companies to acknowledge that they must pay fairly the people who make their content that they sell. That is something that would have wide-reaching implications in nearly every industry.
Mm-hmm. We got to pay people fairly? Oh, we can't compete with that.
Oh, I know. We'll just be like the Disney CEO who says, be realistic. We're not going to pay you fairly. Come on now. Like, okay. Really, man? You said that out loud, you know? But if nothing else, it will set a blueprint, right? It'll set a precedent of how actors and writers and creatives should be paid. And that, I think, would only benefit indie games.
And that just made me think, I wonder if the voice actors for Mega Man 8 were a part of SAG.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no.
They were hired off the street and fed tuna fish sandwiches for their work. So
that's why he sounds weird. He's got a tuna fish sandwich as well. All right, everyone, before we jump into Donnie's Retro Rewind for the week, wanted to chat with Andy, aka Love Retro BTW, to talk to us about an upcoming charity event for Stand Up to Cancer. Now, Gamers Week, Pixel Pond, The Finer Things, Cafe BTW Podcast, and the Retro Blast Podcast are collaborating for these two events for an amazing cause. But before we actually jump in to talk about the event, Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role at Stand Up to Cancer?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan, for having me on, and really excited that I believe this is our third year together doing something for Stand Up to Cancer. But just to give everyone background, I actually work for Stand Up to Cancer, and I'm the director of the gaming community and the gaming programs, which has kind of broadened into general streaming because, Ryan, beyond gaming, we've had musicians stream, we've had all types of different people from arts and crafts. It's really evolved since we started the program in 2019. So it's really just the SU2C stream team now, and anyone that streams on platforms like Twitch, YouTube, I'm even going to say Kick and Facebook Gaming, anywhere where you can stream, even TikTok Live, even IG, we have a way for you to support Stand Up to Cancer and what we're doing. So my role is to create programs, work with partners, work with awesome creators like you, whether you're a retro gamer, whether you're a first-person shooter gamer that plays Fortnite, and Call of Duty, all the way to Minecraft. So the event is called Up to Us to Stamp to Cancer. So it's hashtag Up to Us to Stamp to Cancer. And it's become our tentpole streaming activation where we do our biggest outreach, kind of bring the community together. And I believe you and I have done this event now twice in August.
Right.
So yeah, that's the gist of it. And we have more information, which I'm sure you'll share in the show notes. If you want to check out the programs, there's a lot of information, and using our platforms to make an impact is a win for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm actually excited to announce that this year we're going to be doing actually 2 charity events in the month of August, starting August 5th, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, with a Splatoon 3 Turf War showdown. And, later on the month, the folks from the Finer Things and PixelPod will actually be hosting the Mario Kart 8 tournament this year. So definitely stick around. We've got, 16 people who are going to be competing on the 5th during the Splatoon 3 tournament. And it's something that I've wanted to do for a while. I've done a Splatoon 2 tournament back in the day, but Splatoon 3 is a game that I absolutely love. So I'm super excited to watch people compete and raise money for a fantastic cause.
Yeah, and when you came to me and you're like, hey, what do you think about Splatoon? Part of me was like, oh, but man, the Mario Kart thing is so amazing. But the fact that we get to keep that and have our other collaborators like the Finer Things and PixelPod and Retro Blast kind of leading the way with those, and it's going to be a blast, man. Like, I'm really stoked.
Absolutely. So if you are listening out there, feel free to join us, like we said, on August 5th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you are able to, please consider donating to this great cause. Cancer affects us all. And as Andy said, it's up to us to stand up to cancer. So definitely check us out.
All right, fellow kids, log out of that AOL chat room. Make sure that Zima is ice cold, your Discman has the anti-skip technology, and you have on your Adidas tracksuit, because where we're going, you're going to need them. This is the Retro Rewind for August 1997. Taking a look at some of the top Billboard songs and their artists for this month. I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy and Faith Evans. And still to this day, I never want to hear that song again.
Why is that?
It's horrible. Oh my God. I mean, it was great the first couple of times I heard it. And then for like an entire decade, I just heard it on repeat. And Puff Daddy and the Family's like album that he no, Puff Daddy, you are a horrible, horrible singer.
Oh.
I hope he listens.
Yeah, I know he listens, and his feelings are going to be hurt.
Come on over to my address, which I will not be giving out on the air, and we can have a discussion.
DM us.
Yo, just Puff Daddy. I heard you talking shit. Mo Money, Mo Problems by the Notorious B.I.G. I do like that song. Quit playing games with my heart.
Playing games with my heart.
By the Backstreet Boys, not Ryan Payne.
I was a part of the Backstreet Boys, thank you.
How old were you in 97?
I was 12.
So he was doing the soprano parts.
Right.
Still doing it.
Semi-Charmed Life by the Third Eye Blind. Bit by Meredith Brooks.
Oh, I was like, wow, dude.
Yeah. I didn't come up with this title. That was not me. Not Tonight by Lil' Kim, which was an anthem for all the women with headaches. Do You Know by Robin. Sunny Came Home by Sean Colvin. How Do I Live Without You by Leanne Rimes. And Never Make a Promise by Drew Hill.
I can't hear that Leanne Rimes song and not think about Con Air.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We need to watch Con Air for a patron movie night.
Oh, my God. So many bad Nicolas Cage.
Can we? Hot on your television set with the turn knobs. Seinfeld, ER, Veronica's Closet, Friends, Touched by an Angel, Union Square, Home Improvement, The X-Files, Just Shoot Me, and The Drew Carey Show. I don't think you can have a name of a show called Just Shoot Me in today's society.
No, that was very much a 90s thing. I actually watched a lot of the Drew Carey show.
Me too.
So did I.
I loved it with Dietrich Bader.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's Drew Carey's friend, who was the girl, who was kind of his love interest as well. I had the hots for her back in the day.
Who didn't?
I didn't.
Yes.
You sure about that?
I'm quite sure. She's not my type.
Hot at the theaters this month was Air Force One. Get off my plane. Conspiracy Theory. Spawn. George of the Jungle.
I love George of the Jungle.
I knew she was. I knew she was going to be a fan.
Big fan, purely for the story.
Just for, right. Not for the costume design or anything like that.
No. That's all superficial.
Looks me nothing. Men in Black, Copland, Picture Perfect, Contact, G.I. Jane, and Event Horizon, which that movie's a little bit messed up.
I've only seen that once, and I think that was enough.
That's enough. That'll do. In the news, Microsoft announces it will invest $150 million in Apple Computer Corporation. South Park debuts on Comedy Central.
No
and
way.
Yeah. It is still going strong.
97.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel really old.
Netflix is founded by Mark Randolph and Reed Hastings in Scotts Valley, California, as an online DVD rental business.
Oh my God, I'm so old.
I'm right there with you. And Diana, the Princess of Wales, dies in a car crash in a road tunnel in Paris. Hot at the arcades was Virtual Cop 2, Rival Schools, Street Fighter 3, Mortal Kombat 4, and Tekken 3.
I would choose Tekken.
A lot of fighting games.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat 4, I would flush directly down the toilet. All right, let's take a look at some of the letters from the readers here. I'm sick and tired of all these big-headed senators, congressmen, and parental groups and their problems with video game violence. I think they just have a problem with the blooming, brisk business that video game sales have. They should be aware of a little something called the First Amendment, which allows people to do what they want if it's not harming anyone. I don't think that's how that goes.
Yeah, I don't think that's a definition.
That's exactly how it's written, okay? I'm sure he looked.
He's a law professor. What right do they have to punish us because a few people take the violence to heart? They shouldn't tell us what games to play if they're not playing them. If kids out there are looking for a leader to take on these fools, then I'm the kid for the job. Together we can give these people the reality check they deserve and earn the right to play what game we want. United, no one will be able to stop us. Walter Fisher III, president of the NMVGRC, which is the No More Video Game Restrictions Club. I wonder whatever happened to Walter Fisher III.
Did he become a senator?
Wait. Okay. Walter Fisher III, huh?
Yeah, Fisher.
Well, there's a Walter Fisher III who's a project manager in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, should we reach out to him and see if he's
There's also a convicted murderer in Maryland named Walter Fisher III.
I think the violence got to him.
Oh, no!
Oh, my God. It would be amazing if it was one of those two people.
Oh,
Can we write to them? Can we reach out?
Well, probably not the convicted murderer, but maybe the guy on LinkedIn.
Well, pen pals, right? You know?
Yeah, the penal system in Maryland. There's a way to contact
we're going to
them.
end up on a true crime documentary.
Like, did you write GamePro in 1997? Hell yeah, man! By the way, GamePro says that, P.S., there's a militia group somewhere with your name on it, Walter.
Oh, damn.
Jeez.
One of the other letters is, in your May issue, Victor Watts drew Sarah of Virtua Fighter 3. See Art Attack. Well, actually, he redrew Caitlin Fairchild of Gen 13. The day I got my GamePro, I also got a comic book magazine that showed the exact same picture, but in different colors and a different t-shirt. Think about this. This kid tried to cheat to get publicly rewarded. Next time, ask for original drawings.
Signed, Ryan Payne.
And I'm looking at the two different pictures. Yes, they're the exact same pose. Yes, they look almost exactly the same. There's the only difference that you can tell are the colors that he chose. The Gen 13 model has red hair. The other person that he drew has blonde hair. So
he likes blondes over redheads. I won't hold that against him.
They do have more fun.
GamePro says, the truth is out there. The problem is both pictures are very cool. And now that I have two curvaceous women on my letter pile, I'm twice as happy.
Dang, that's a great answer.
And we do ask for original art. The artist drew Sarah from VF3 in Caitlin's pose with a VF3 shirt. It's his interpretation, so it's original. And P.S., think about a career as an IRS auditor.
Oh,
They're calling you out, son. In the video game news, with only 1 day left before approving the deal, Sega and Bandai have called off their planned merger. According to analysts, recent problems for the two companies were a big factor in the cancellation. Sega would not give a reason for the cancellation, but according to Bandai's marketing director, their employees were extremely nervous about the deal. Because it's Sega.
what's to be nervous about?
Right? They make great decisions. As part of a $40 million cost-cutting measure, Acclaim has cut 115 jobs despite successful sales of Turok Dinosaur Hunter for the N64. The company will also be centralizing their operations into a single facility in Glen Cove, New York, aka someone's dad's basement. Hot at Blockbuster this month, Air Combat 2, Race Storm, and Poi Poi for PS1. Star Fox International Superstar Soccer and Blast Corps for N64.
There wasn't a pause between Star Fox International, so I thought it was Star Fox International Soccer. I was like, man, I need that game now.
It's like, this is where Blitzball came from?
Aww.
Shining the Holy Ark, Fighters Megamix, and Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the Sega Saturn. Games released this month, a very short list, however, one notable game. Shadow Warrior, Madden 98, Mega Man X4, and cue the music. GoldenEye 007 for the N64. All right, kids, thanks for hanging out with me this evening. This concludes our Retro Rewind for this month. My dad says I need to log off so he can get online. He wants to talk to his friends. Funny thing is, I didn't know he had friends in Thailand.
Oh my God. On that note, that'll about do it for us here. So thank you for listening to episode 84 of Gamers Week Podcast. And a big thank you to your Retro Game Club Podcast, the Elitist Podcast, and Love Retro BTW for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. And if you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on X at Gamers Week PC. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com, or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. And join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. Finally, since you made it all the way to the end of the episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. And while you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. Jesus Christ. We hope you all have a fantastic evening.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Good night.
Good night, everybody. I need a hand job. I need a hand job. Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's dick in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD-STDs things, right? Make it fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.